Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a comprehensive guide on exactly how we connect to the incredibly complex world around us. We'll be breaking down a fascinating source that explores the whole shebang, society, politics, economics, and ethics, and translating it into clear, actionable insights. Let's get right into it.
So, are social issues really too big for you to solve? Think about things like climate change, or our aging populations, or even digital privacy. When we see these topics popping up in the news every single day, well, it's so easy to feel completely overwhelmed. They feel massive, right? Intimidating. They kind of feel like things only governments or big global experts can possibly tackle.
But let's really dive into this, because the source material makes a pretty bold and honestly powerful claim. To quote it directly, however, social issues are not someone else's problem. Seriously, problems don't just happen to other people far, far away. They're deeply, inherently connected to us. I mean, the aging population, that shapes your future taxes and your social security. Climate change, it dictates your energy prices and literally impacts your safety.
It lays the reality out perfectly. Society is not somewhere else. We live inside it. We aren't just spectators watching the world happen through a screen. We are active participants. Our daily lives, our work, our digital habits, and our purchases, they literally form the very fabric of these massive systems. And once you grasp that, it's a real game changer. The way you look at the world completely shifts.
Section 1. National Challenges and Fairness.
Let's talk about the shifting demographics we're dealing with, specifically that delicate balance between a shrinking working-age population and a rapidly growing elderly one. Now, the source makes it crystal clear that this isn't some sort of battle of young versus old. The elderly absolutely are not the enemies of the young. I mean, they built the society we're inheriting, right? And, spoiler alert, the young will one day be old themselves. The real challenge here is about designing sustainable, genuinely fair social security systems that work for everyone, across all stages of life.
And speaking of fairness, when we talk about it, we usually think of formal equality, giving everyone the exact same rules. But substantive equality asks us to look at the actual conditions on the ground. True fairness sometimes means moving beyond treating everyone identically to providing targeted support that helps people overcome invisible barriers. Think about financial aid for students coming from low-income households. It doesn't give them an unfair advantage. Actually, it just removes a barrier they never chose to have in the first place.
Section 2. The Digital Public Square.
So, an absolutely crucial point here is that modern dilemmas are rarely a simple, clean-cut choice between good and evil. They're actually value conflicts. Take artificial intelligence, for example. It offers incredible efficiency, sure, but it directly conflicts with values like privacy and bias prevention. Or think about content moderation. It protects people from harm, but it butts right up against freedom of expression. A real civic thinker doesn't just pick a simplistic side. Instead, they neutrally identify these conflicts, compare the reasons, and ask, okay, what balance is most justifiable for our society?
Section 3. Our Borderless World.
Because there is no single world government, states have to constantly rely on treaties, diplomacy, and organizations like the UN just to cooperate and maintain peace. But what does peace actually look like in practice? Well, there's a stark difference between these two concepts. Negative peace is simply the absence of war or direct violence. And hey, that is incredibly important, of course. But positive peace? That's the active presence of dignity, rights, and opportunity. So if a country isn't at war, but its people are denied basic education, healthcare, or they face severe discrimination, that society lacks positive peace.
This global interconnectedness is probably most visible in our economy. If you follow the journey of a typical global supply chain, it goes something like this. Raw materials are extracted in one region, they're manufactured in another, shipped globally, and then consumed locally by us. But I really want you to ask yourself something. If a product is unbelievably cheap, who is truly paying the hidden costs? Is it the environment taking the hit? Is it workers facing poor conditions abroad? The global economy isn't some abstract concept. It's right in our homes and literally in our phones every single day.
Section 4. Thinking like a citizen.
The source provides this fantastic, practical method for interpreting the constant flood of data and graphs we're bombarded with in the news. First, identify the change. Is a trend going up, going down, or just staying flat? Second, make comparisons. How does one specific group or region differ from another? And third, deduce reasons. Don't just stare at the numbers. You have to connect the data to real social backgrounds. For example, if voter turnout is super low among youth, we need to deduce what that actually means for how our policies are being shaped.
Now,
Let's see how we use this data to form our own arguments. This is pretty much the ultimate method for answering civics questions, or really just forming a solid, well-reasoned opinion. You start with a claim, that's your main point. You follow it up with a reason, why it matters or why it's actually true, and then you anchor the whole thing with an example, your concrete evidence. So if you say consumer protection is necessary, boom, that's a claim. The reason might be because consumers have way less bargaining power than big businesses. And the example? Just look at the tricky cancellation rules on a subscription app.
Section 5. Everyday social participation.
Think about the cyclical progression of participation. It all starts with the simple but honestly profound act of noticing. Just noticing when a crosswalk is dangerous, or maybe a digital space feels really unfair. Then you think. You ask yourself why it's happening, and you look at the broader social structures at play. Next, you speak, whether that's discussing it with a friend over coffee or posting responsibly online. And finally, you act. You don't have to be a superhero here. Small, everyday actions absolutely protect dignity in the spaces where you live and work.
And that action? It happens in ways you might not even realize. Let's do a rapid-fire breakdown of the real-world ways you cast a vote every single day. Yes, obviously, you vote at the ballot box to choose representatives. But you also vote through ethical consumption choices. Where you spend your hard-earned money directly signals what business practices you support. You vote through your digital habits. Where you direct your attention and who you give your data to literally shapes the digital economy. And you vote through your labor. The work you do becomes a crucial part of someone else's life and supports the entire social network.
Which brings us to our final thought. The source material fundamentally proves that you are inextricably linked to the world around you. There's no escaping it. Your consumption, your digital clicks, your work, and your voice are actively building the future right now. So I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. If your everyday choices shape the world, what kind of society are you voting for today? Take that civic lens, look closely at your daily habits, and start using your power intentionally. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.